Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the Gateway Board of School Directors meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 16th, 2019. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Roll call, Bunny.
Mr. Bova?
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Here.
Mr. Gottman?
Here.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Here.
Mr. McIntyre?
Here.
Mr. Ritter?
Here.
Mrs. Warning?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
At this time, I would like to invite our student representative to give her report. Zoe, is that how you say it? Zoe or Zoe? Zoe, welcome.
Hello, my name is Zoe Abel, and I am Vice President of Senior Class Council at Gateway High School. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak on behalf of our Senior Class Council and the entire student body. Since the last time Bella, our president, spoke at the last board meeting, Senior Class Council has hosted another successful blood drive with around 30 donors, along with selling this year's 2019 senior t-shirt. Also, our Junior Class Council hosted one of Gateway's biggest, most anticipated fundraisers, Gateway's Prom Fashion Show. Throughout the successful show, we had over 25 models show off dresses from David's Bridal and tuxedos from Jack's Tuxedos. Also, to end the night and to honor Mr. Wallace's last year as the fashion show MC, Gateway High School students raised over $200 to be donated to Autism Speaks Foundation. Soon after the prom fashion show, Mr. Wallace hosted his infamous cupcake fundraiser from Spinola's Bakery to raise even more money for Autism Speaks. Looking forward to our last few weeks, we have our highly anticipated musical, Once on This Island, opening next week in the Gateway High School Auditorium. The dates are April 26th and 27th at 7:30 p.m., and May 3rd and 4th at 7:30 p.m. and 2 p.m., and also April 28th at 2 o'clock. As the year closes out in May, Gateway students have Mini-thon to look forward to on May 18th to raise money for pediatric cancer. And right before graduation, our Senior Class Council will work tirelessly to plan this year's senior dinner dance, being held on May 24th at the Doubletree Hotel. We are planning to have a very successful and fun, eventful last few weeks before this year comes to an end. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to speak in front of all of you.
Thanks for that amazing update. Next on our agenda is a presentation from our Black Student Union. I'd like to invite you up to the podium.
Mr. Spinola is our advisor, and he could probably introduce the young ladies.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. It's a privilege to be here with members of the community and the school board and many of my students, actually. It's fun to see you here tonight. I was approached at the beginning of the school year. I'd heard rumors over the summer that students were talking about starting a Black Student Union. I was asked about the possibility of sponsoring that early on in the school year, and I knew about Black Student Union organizations. They're very popular at universities and many educational outlets, high schools as well. And I was supportive of the idea. And these young ladies are the leaders of the Black Student Union and really took the initiative in getting things started. I want to, and keeping it going. I want to thank the school board and administration, Dr. Short and Mr. Stevens at the high school for being receptive to having this organization. I know they are not, some school districts are struggling with whether to accept them or not, and Gateway was quite receptive to it, and we really do appreciate that. So I'm going to turn this over to the young ladies. They'll introduce themselves and tell you about the group.
All right. Hi, I'm Kiana, and kind of piggybacking off of what Mr. Spinola said about where BSUs came from. They mostly came from predominantly white universities in the late 1960s, of course, like after Jim Crow laws were abolished, and Black students basically seeing that all their campuses focused, like all their leadership positions were filled by like their white students and white counterparts, and they kind of created the Black Student Union to give themselves leadership and to provide unity and community amongst their campus because they were fighting the same civil rights movement as the other activists that we're more familiar with.
Hello, my name is Nia Latham. Good evening, everyone. I just want to give some background on how we started the BSU and how we kind of figured out how we were going to form it and what we wanted to do with it. We actually knew a girl that graduated in 2014, and she came to us about a girl that graduated last year and wanted to see if we wanted to extend a hand out to actually start creating the BSU. We wanted to create it so that we could unify students and educate them on their own culture and also make it so that other ethnicities could be a part of it, and we do not discriminate, but we did want to target African American students who have the tendency to struggle in school and even in their personal life. We wanted to provide a safe place for students and congregate and accomplish their school and personal goals. Thus far, we have steered all our members in the right direction, and with mentorship, private tutoring, and to keep close relationships with them and checking up on them in their grades.
That's awesome.
And then also, who are we? We are inspired, empowered, and endowed with African Americans' growth in our community. We focus on unity within our school. We think it's important to have all of us together and communicate with each other due to the political climate, like the climate in schools. We want to lessen the achievement gap from white students to African American students, and all of us are dedicated to fighting that battle because we want every single student in Gateway, especially like also the African American students, to be part of that Gateway greatness. We want them to, finish high school and go to universities or secondary educations or trade schools as well. And yeah, like I said, we're all fighting to end that achievement gap in Gateway High School. And lastly, we're leaders and activists in our community.
Hi everyone, my name is Erica Jackson. I'm a junior at Gateway High School. I'm just going to be talking about basically what we've done so far. So in our very first meeting in October, we had over 60 students come to our meeting, and it was really a great turnout. And for February, we've had a Black Culture Awareness Week, and for Monday, we did Move Your Body Monday, and basically it consisted of a presentation done by the leaders, and we talked about jazz, we talked about majorette, and we also talked about West African dance. On Tuesday, we didn't talk about it, but we wore pens to support students, not students, but African Americans who have experienced hate crimes. On Wednesday, we had Black Women Wednesday, and we had 5 prominent African American women who came in, and they gave us a TED Talk on their lives and the struggles that they have faced in their community, and it was a very good discussion. We had a trivia Thursday, and we also had a flashback Friday to talk about our Black culture and things like that. We also had Taram Jenkins, a lawyer who graduated from Gateway. He came to our school, and he talked about his life and just about how it is to get on that career path and how to just keep going. We've also had Mr. Ken Houston come to one of our meetings before, and he's talked to us about how we can further expand our BSU and the good things that are going to come from it. He's been helping us a lot. We've also had a FAMU representative. A FAMU is Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. It's a HBCU in Florida. We had a FAMU representative come in, and he talked to us about his school, and that was done through Miss Monica Pugh, who works at the Pittsburgh Public Schools. We also had for CSC, we went to the CSC students, and we read to the kindergartners, and it was a good turnout. We have pictures on Twitter, and I'm also the yearbook editor, so I took pictures for that event. And we're also, in May 18th, we're going to create a mini-thon team just to support the cause of it. We're doing a lot to just connect and unify African Americans with other races and just bringing them in so that we can diversify and connect to other students.
All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Mia Thomas. Just a little bit about myself. I'll be attending Penn State University in the fall, and I'm going to be summing up pretty much everything that you've heard today, as well as a little bit of my own personal experience as a young African-American woman in Gateway, and just also finishing up with essentially why we're here and what we want. So dating back to junior year, this is a little bit of a story. Kiana and I were in our honors anatomy class, and we were just, talking together, ranting about how we feel like our school isn't 100% for us as African American students. And we were also voicing the concerns of how many other students also feel in the school district as well. So we decided, we were just spinning off ideas together about how can we combat the issues that we all feel like we're facing from a day-to-day basis. So she texted me in the summer, and then we had the idea of starting a Black Student Union. And just a little bit more about it. So our goals are to essentially, we all know the achievement gap, the issue between, the disparity between African American students and white students, particularly on test scores and stuff like that. So our main goal this year was to combat that issue. And one of the ways we tried to do it was to start this Black Student Union and create a form of unity so that we all can feel supportive and support each other academically and socially. Also, just to bounce off what Erica said, that all of the initiatives that we have been taking, it's created to support one another so that we all can feel empowered to do our best. Because once we have a support system together and we all understand our issues, I personally feel like we're unstoppable. Moreover, we were also discussing some of the issues of NHS, how there's not a lot of African American students, particularly African American males, who are not succeeding to the standards of their white peers. And that's an issue that we wanted to combat also this year and continuing further. And I feel like one of the ways we can honestly do that is to keep this Black Student Union around, to keep the support going, to make sure that we're officially a club, to be in the handbook, because we want our future generations, we want the future generations of students, of African Americans in general, to succeed. Because not only will that make us all look good, it will help them in the future, but it helps us as well. It makes our district look good. If we're having African Americans succeeding above all the other schools, what does that say about us? It says that we're doing something right. And that's all, I'm sure that's all why we're here, because we're for the students, we want something. So that's why we wanted to create this. That's why we want to be here. And I hope that you guys will allow us to be an official club in the future. So thank you.
Can I just say on behalf of the school board, we are so proud of you. You guys are so amazing, and I commend you on your leadership. I commend you on the initiative that you guys took to start this club, and the goals that you have set forth are amazing. And you have our full support. I don't know if you think you don't, but I don't think there's one person here that doesn't support your organization. And if there's anything that you need, you let us know. Because if you guys succeed, like you said, the district succeeds, and that's the goal. We want everybody to get a great education here and to be successful. So whatever we can do to help you, you let us know. Thank you for your presentation.
Ms. Cerrucci, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you folks suggested to me you wanted to have a dance, which I believe actually is on the agenda now, yes?
Yes, we're gonna have a dance, Friday, April 26th, from 7 to 10 at the Pitcairn Community Center. Also, if you guys wanna see pictures of the things that we've done, we also have an Instagram account, GHS_BSU.
Great advertisement.
I prefer to say that because the people at home couldn't hear.
Sure, yeah.
Insta what, Graham?
On Instagram, we have a BSU account, so it's called GHS_BSU.
And when's your dance? Go ahead and say that in the mic.
Our BSU bash is on Friday, April 22nd, 7 to 10.
Where is it?
At the Pitcairn Community. Oh, I'm sorry. The Pitcairn Community Center, April 26th.
Now, don't I remember that you might also have needed a little more help from the school board in order to put this dance on? Am I remembering that correctly? Something in a financial nature, or have I forgotten? Am I remembering that incorrectly?
Yes, you're correct.
Well, this would be a good time to ask for that.
So yeah, we need money. We don't have a lot of it. We do have fundraising, and the dance will be fundraising for the BSU, and we've had the help of Mr. Ken Houston helping us and sponsoring us in this event. But we would like your help in future events as well, because we do need money.
Very good.
Okay.
Can you go up to the microphone and say that?
Mr. Spinola, is there a certain dollar amount that's required before April 26th? Because we don't have another school board meeting before then.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, And the tickets will be sold at the door. They're $5 per person.
What type of, what do I want to say, that you're doing at the dance that you're going to need funding for, so we can have an idea what you will need?
Well, right now, we have a DJ, and we have a venue where we're going to be holding the event. Right now, we would like funding for drinks and snacks for the students so they, can enjoy themselves. It's going to be a pretty long night, so they'll need something to drink and eat. Decorations.
We don't have the DJ, I'm sorry. That's no mistake, we don't have the DJ, but we are working on that, so I would really like your help to finance it, because although, yes, it's a fundraiser, we do still need others' help, and we would really appreciate it.
You all, there's nothing wrong with you saying we would like for you all to financially sponsor our event. We would, if you would be willing to give us a financial figure such as $500, and you would give them the ledger. You can request that.
Oh, okay. We would like to request
That's called mentoring.
I said it 8 times. Get it on the record. They can say they reserve the right to say yes or no.
Okay. So that's hard, right? I don't have to repeat.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I had an opportunity to speak with you probably a couple weeks ago, and did an outstanding job. Now, Mr. Jenkins, I wanted to see him as a former student. He remembers me very well. I was principal back in the day. So he is running for, I believe, district attorney. So he provided what I heard was some wonderful insight into how his career developed, his education at Gateway, and what he's learned over the years. So it was a very, very valuable resource to be brought in. Nice job. Before we move on, I'd like to make a motion to provide $500 for the Black Student Union in support of their efforts.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ready, Bonnie?
I'm ready.
Roll call.
Roll call. Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good luck.
One condition, you have to come back at least once a year and give us updates, if not more.
Even when they transition to college, that's where I ask them to.
It's very important.
Okay, let's move on to section 5, comments from residents on agenda items. Did anyone sign up to speak, Bonnie?
Not in advance, no.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on agenda items? Mr. Houston?
Thank you very much. Kenneth Houston, Edgemead Drive, Monroeville. Real quick, so that the community understands what these awesome students of yours is doing is absolutely fantastic. These young ladies are sincerely dedicated to all their student body. Every student in their district, they're committed to. And I think that the public should be aware that though they're called the Black Student Union, they are committed 100% to their school district. And their dance and anything that they're doing as far as funding is concerned and raising of those funds will be accountable to the penny. We've talked about it, they're 200% in agreement with it, and we would like to see them do more because this is a positive thing for the whole entire Gateway School District. And I must say that I'm proud and honored to work with these young ladies as they endeavor to do more to make Gateway look great. And I appreciate every last one of your support. I don't think there's not one of you that have said anything negative. Mr. Bova, particularly, you and I talked extensively about it. George, Val, we all talked about the impact of the Black Student Union. And I commend this district, I commend this community, and I think it's something we all can be proud of and embrace because it's positive. And I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for supporting these young people. because they need it, and it's good for them to see their district stand behind them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Houston.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rucci, could I add just one more quick thing?
Sure thing.
When I met with the Black Student Union, there was a young man with you. I want to make it clear, there are young men involved in this leadership too. You guys are very dynamic and take over a room. But this is co-ed. There are men involved, and I know that's a big goal of yours, is involving them and elevating them too. So I just want to make that clear. I wish he was here.
He's one of our leaders for next year. We're already starting to recruit other people, and there are 2 guys we have so far.
Beautiful, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you guys don't have to stay for the whole meeting if you don't want to.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You say it.
Anybody standing wants a seat. All right, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on agenda items? Mrs. Burns, maybe. This is your chance. If you're here to speak to the board from the band, this would be an agenda item.
School board meeting before.
Psychic, I kind of
Psychic.
knew.
Yeah. Nice. My name is Donna Burns. I'm actually the parent of 3 kids in the school district. I have a senior, a sophomore, and an 8th grader. And they are all in the marching band, among other activities. And I'm actually the new band booster president. And I know later on the agenda, there's an item about the band trailer that we need to replace. The current trailer we have does not pass inspection anymore. And as it is, we can't even haul all of our equipment. So the band has, I think it's showing 120 members or so with the instrumentalists and the guard units. It's not just the marching band in the fall. I know that's what a lot of people see, but we actually have winter programs. Some of my daughters are involved in the winter percussion group, and there's a guard groups too. So that the band activities occur all year, and with the winter programs, we still even use the trailer. And actually, all of our equipment doesn't fit in the trailer we even have. The size is too small, so we actually rent a Penske truck for each time we actually go when the band actually performs, whether it's a competition. So anytime we have the amount of equipment, the equipment's actually obviously pretty large when you look at the entire front ensemble. If you've ever seen the band at the football game, we take a lot of square footage up there on the sideline, and so we have the other trucks. So I know there's the agenda item on getting some funding from the school district to purchase the new trailer for that. I know we have been doing some fundraising. We have money in the band account to do some of that. We've actually sent out a sponsorship letter to get sponsors to help us fund the trailer. And we have $1,000 already pledged for sponsorship towards the cost of the trailer. And I was actually talking with Brandon Markosik today too, because his father had helped fund the last trailer about 10 years ago. And given us money that from his account. So I know Brandon was looking at, Markosik was looking at that today to see if he could get some additional funding for us.
Thank you.
Okay.
So normally, this is board comments and we don't engage in dialogue and questions, but because this is kind of a new issue and I think there were questions, I do want to open it up to any board members who might want to ask her a question because she is the president of the band boosters, if you're okay with that.
That's fine. Well, Mr. Helchie's here, if you don't mind me speaking. I've been talking with Mr. Bob Brown, and we were looking at the quotes that came. From what I understand, the specs that you have now is not the specs that you need for the trailer. Am I correct in saying that, Mr. Helchie?
Yeah, that's fine. Mr. Brown is here, I believe.
Right, he's right
We
here.
actually met with Mr. Helchie probably for over an hour today in my office, had conversations about the different specs of the trailers and exactly what Jim, the marching band, was looking for. And I think we've kind of narrowed it down to those specs, and I do know that Mr. Brown provided Mr. Helchie with some guidance and some additional information. Phone calls were going to be made, I believe, today.
Yeah, we do have 2 quotes. We're working on a few other quotes. The 2 quotes we have, there are some spec differences which caused the price difference. So we need to clarify some things with those two quotes between those two companies. Mr. Brown is working on a third quote. But in my discussions with Mr. Brown, we are reconsidering the size trailer that we had originally thought when Mr. Brown and I had originally had this conversation last summer, when he informed me that our current trailer would not pass another year of inspection. So we are taking a small step back to reevaluate the size trailer that we need. Mr. Brown's concerned that the size that we're currently looking at, that we currently have the quotes for, will not adequately hold everything without still causing us to rent an additional truck. So even bigger. Yeah, perhaps slightly bigger, due to when this current trailer that we're using now was, I don't want to be too long-winded, but was purchased in 2005 when the band was a much smaller organization, and the equipment, the electronics were a lot smaller. There weren't electronics used in the activity. Now it's almost a requirement to use electronics in order to be heard over the size of the band we have. So we're including 2 gigantic speaker carts, 2 sound carts, keyboard carts, things like that take up a lot of space that simply don't fit in the size trailer we have anymore. Mr. Brown requested that we look at a 5th wheel style trailer rather than a bumper pull, just for ease of maneuvering for the drivers. So we looked at a 38-foot trailer, a 38-foot 5th wheel trailer. We currently have a 28-foot bumper pull trailer. Mr. Brown's concern is that the 28-foot bumper pull is a 28-foot box. The 38-foot 5th wheel is only a 30-foot box with the extension over top of the top. So we're really only gaining 2 feet of linear space in the back of that trailer, and about a foot in height. So without really thinking about how we're going to build out the inside of that to maximize that space, we have to look at perhaps going slightly longer in order to be able to fit everything in that one space to save the marching band. What was that number that Mary said?
So we spent $2,000 in 2018 between the 2 programs, and last year we spent $2,500. And that was just the cost for the rental. That's not all the extra gas and everything else. We have to refill it up.
That's the cost for renting the Penske
That's just
truck.
the cost for renting the Penske truck, yeah. So it's about $400 more in this last year than it was the year before.
We're forced to rent the Penske truck because 3 or 4 of the instruments that we need to use for the students do not fit in the trailer, in the current trailer, the size that it is.
All right, we're all looking at a quote here, I think everybody at the board has, for 8x38 gooseneck coupler Eagle car trailer. Is that which version of what you're speaking? Is that the 5th wheel?
Both of the quotes that I believe you have in front of you are the 8x38 gooseneck enclosed trailers. The quote from Wendell H. Stone Company is the one that I'm trying to get redone with some different specs, because it does. For example, the triple 5,200-pound axles. The other quote that we have has 6,000-pound axles.
The one I have in front of me is from CarMate.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
a
So
6,000-pound axle.
So the CarMate, the Smouse truck.
This would be more in line with what
that
you're
would be more in line
for.
with I think what we're looking for.
All right,
Should we
'cause
go
the
with
total price tag on that is $21,000.
Yes.
I know you mentioned that the boosters have some money available. Do you possibly have $21,000 to buy a trailer? Is there any way that that's a feasible goal if the board should decline to throw in money? So at this point, I think there's a resolution to.
Well, I think I'm gonna be looking for a motion to table that, given the
Well, I mean, just-
information when we get to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like for a booster club, it seems like a very high figure in a very short window, because it also has a build time of 9 to 10 weeks.
Which is one of my biggest concerns right now. I don't want anybody on the board to think that we have been putting this off until the very last moment. This has been something that we have been discussing for months since Mr. Brown brought it to our attention. We started setting money aside. We started allocating some funds and cutting our expenditures in some other areas. I don't personally know the fund balance of the boosters.
We checked last night, we just put a large deposit in from our winter show, but we have $28,000 in the main booster account. And there's actually other money in a student account the students own from their own fundraising.
So, I mean, is the number there that we could buy a trailer ourselves? Yes, it is. However, that depletes our entire, shall I call it a general fund, to provide other things to the students throughout the year that we need. That's our operating budget for, marching band specific needs such as instrument repairs and purchasing new equipment and things like that. So should we have to pay for the entire trailer ourselves, it's going to greatly hinder what we're able to do.
And we actually still are incurring expenses right now for the upcoming marching band season. So we won't start getting, we'll get some income in a little bit in May, mostly in June from DCI, and then the students start putting their part of fair share in starting in July. And we actually get like $100 payments every month from the students from July through October. So we actually sort of upfront a lot of the money that the students fund. And we have the big craft show we do in November is a big fundraising for the current band season. So that's actually after the season's over. So that's part of what that fund balance sits for, is we actually are funding that stuff as we go, and it sort of just keeps recurring because then the winter programs are starting, and so we're always outlaying money up front. Mr. Hochie's already put in the contract for the show music and everything else, so we've already paid money from that fund balance. So it's part of it. So we could pay some of it now, but it'll be a little bit more challenging for us to balance the ins and the outs for when we need to pay bills.
So maybe we can touch base again, and you could come to the May meeting, and maybe we'll have an answer then on the revised quotes, and maybe we'll have an answer from Representative Markosic.
I'd like to make maybe
and
just
business
one
bankers.
suggestion,
Sure.
is while you're looking at other quotes, if I have this correct, the size of this trailer would actually requires the district to buy a truck specifically to pull this trailer.
Yeah, that was a recommendation made to me when Mr. Brown and I first began these discussions about the new trailer, and we talked about needing, and he understands that we rent that Penske truck, and he understands that we need a bigger trailer. And he made the recommendation that we look at a fifth wheel style trailer for ease of maneuverability and parking in some of the tight spaces that we go to. Some of the schools that we visit aren't large and equipped to handle large trailers, even the size that we have now, making it difficult for the drivers. So he suggested that we look at a fifth wheel, regardless of the size, especially if we went bigger, to make it easier on them. And he did mention at that time that it would require them to buy a different style trailer.
Right, and I think what I'm trying to allude to is the truck that we're looking to replace with was it F-350?
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be replaced within the next couple of years. So that's an expense that I think we're willing to incur. But the difference between replacing it with the same style model and the upgrade to the 350 to pull this size of a trailer is around $20,000 in difference. That's 10 years of renting a Penske truck. That's probably about the life of the trailer to begin with. So can we maybe looking at a smaller price, smaller trailer, continuing to maybe rent the Penskes, or we look at maybe buying a box truck for the district? Just some different options financially to maybe bring the cost down. And
another one of the problems for us with renting the Penske every week is reliability of the rental companies. We have many weeks where and Charles Chase is here, he's the one that drives the Penske truck for our winter programs, has repeatedly shown up at various locations, and they don't have the truck that we reserved. They don't have one with a lift gate in order to lift the instruments up, things like that. I end up on the phone on a Saturday morning when I'm trying to spend time with my kids, arguing with people at various rental companies. And then also finding parents to drive them. The district provides maintenance workers to drive the truck with the trailer, but we have to provide somebody to pick up, drive, and return the Penske, which is sometimes not an easy thing to do. When you're
I'm
talking
curious,
about
Mr.
parent
Brown, do you have at least one driver that can back up a 38-foot trailer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's not an easy task. Anybody else have questions?
I'm sorry. The only other thing that I would say to Mr. McIntyre's comment is, I understand the extra cost of the additional of the different truck of the F-350 versus the F-150, but I don't want anybody to get the idea that truck would be attached solely to that trailer and used only for that purpose. that truck would be a regular district maintenance truck used 4 seasons, 365 days.
It would, but we don't require an F-350 truck
I-
if we don't buy your
understand
trailer.
that. I understand that it would be an upgraded because of this trailer, but I think that this trailer our current trailer is 15 years old. It was purchased between the 05 and 06 school years, so 14, 15 years old. And I think a new trailer is probably going to, especially this style, is going to last us a lot longer than the 10 years or than the 14 years that this one did, or at least as long, especially if we build it out on the inside correctly.
I'm just going to intervene here. Talking to Mr. Schott earlier, would it be correct in saying we're not going to help? Okay, I mean, my hope is that we do, is to table it or pull the resolution and then ask the board to put out for bids to advertise. Which is the best way to handle it, because you're saying we need 3 bids.
One of the problems we ran into with these amounts, and looking back when the previous trailer was purchased, the district purchased a trailer because it has to be titled in the district's name. We insure it. We also pay to have it inspected for that. So with those funds that were donated last time, I was able to go back through in our financial records and determine the exact date, the amount paid by the district at that particular point in time. So in a similar situation, we would have to actually make the purchase of that. So when I see the amounts, even with the updated quote here, $21,088, any item that's over $20,600 is required to be bid. Now, this would be contingent upon us not potentially being able to find a vendor that may be on CoStarz or one of the other pre-bid purchasing networks that are out there. No guarantee that we could find that. So basically what we would be able to do, and let's say maybe even in the next couple of days, okay, everyone's in agreement in terms of Mr. Brown, Helchi, the band, that we have a particular set of specifications that will be correct for that. By being able to authorize the approval to advertise for bids, we can start the process immediately and make it hit the street and advertise, and then be able to come back to the board and say, okay, we've identified the particular trailer, we've identified the lowest responsible bidder at this X number of dollars. So then we can talk about in terms of an exact dollar amount of a trailer we're talking about, because conceptually tonight we can't do that. Even with what we have, we don't have the apples to apples type of thing for it. So that would be my recommendation, to be able to just provide administration the ability to formally advertise and come back with a good quote in the required amount of time, which is 3 weeks. So it takes a little bit of time, so we'd like to start that process as soon as possible.
Okay.
How much you paid for the trailer in 05?
I have it.
Who didn't know that?
$9,000.
And I think it was,
Mr. Troy, if I'm correct, the
It's
entire
$9,000,
balance
he
of that
told me.
purchase was donated by, I believe, Representatives Markosic and Logan. So that wasn't an expense from the boosters or from the district, correct?
sure, $9,337. That was made back on, we actually cut the check on July 11, 2006. The Gale trailer sales, 28-foot Hallmark van trailer for that. The only thing we were unable to find, I was able to back into this from a fixed asset schedule, but we actually disposed of all of our records after 7 years. So we were unable to go downstairs in the basement and actually find a backup to see exactly, in terms of how that was financed for that. So, but I was able to at least determine the amount, and the district actually did make the purchase, which makes sense since it's titled in our name.
Maybe in the minutes, there may be an exhibit.
Okay, I think that you have our commitment to just, continue to follow this issue with you. You have a commitment from the board, the business manager, the facilities to help you with the right quotes, and we're gonna work through this with you, and we're gonna stay in touch, and we'll reconvene on this issue next month.
I'd like to thank Dr. Short and Mr. Brown for meeting with me today and discussing all of this, and all of you for considering helping us. There's not really a whole lot of precedent, because it's not something that happens every couple of years. But it's something that benefits a very large organization, like Donna said, over 120 students. So, and it's something that goes with us a lot of places. We're committed to a Bands of America contest in Johnson City, Tennessee, this fall. So it goes a long way with us, and you know, it says Gateway real big on the side, we usually represent fairly well, so.
Great, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board on agenda items? State your name and address, if you would, please. Oh, I thought he was getting up to speak.
Me too.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. Section A, minutes of previous meetings. Can I have a
So moved.
motion to approve?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Williams. Is there any questions, Mr. Ritter, on the minutes? Seeing none. Bonnie?
Roll call? Okay. Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich. Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye. Section B, financial reports.
Mr. Ritchie?
Go ahead, Mr. Schott.
Section B, resolved that Gateway Board of School Directors approve sections B1 list of bills, B2 monthly financial statements, and B3 budget transfers as listed in section B at the Tuesday, April 16, 2019 regular board meeting. And as always, just wanted to note that we did add an additional section, B1 to list the bills since the study session B.
So moved.
Second.
Can you give me Bonnie a chance to write?
Thank you.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Section C, there is no items previously tabled. Section D, personnel agenda, Mrs. Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Rucci. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 6 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, April 16th. Under resignations, we have 5. We do want to congratulate Dale and Harry on their upcoming retirements. Between them, they have 36 years of service to the district, and we want to thank them for that. Under leaves of absence, we have 5. There is 1 additional that has been added since the study session. Transfers, 4. There are 2 additions since the study session. Under number 4 for employment, we are recommending Cynthia Verveka for a secretary at the Ramsey Elementary. That is an addition since the study session. Supplemental contracts, we have 2 under resignations, 3 issuance, and also the fall sports. Under section 6, we have 11 volunteers. That reflects 4 new since the study session.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Is there questions or comments for Mrs. Crump? No questions on personnel?
I have one question real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Leanna at the AD office will now be helping Cynthia over at Ramsey. Am I correct?
Yes, we have her scheduled with backups Wednesday, Thursday, and Monday for
So
right
there-
now.
There will be somebody in the AD office to cover her?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Roll call, Bonnie.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Aye.
Motion carries. Section E, conferences and conventions.
Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves and authorizes the following conferences and conventions as listed in Section E at the regular board meeting of Tuesday, April 16th. We do have 2 conferences listed for this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. McIntyre. Is there any questions on the conferences? Seeing none. Bonnie.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Here.
Mrs.
Both,
Mrs.
either.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich. Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Oh, Section F, administrative report. Who's going to take that? Mr. Rossi, Dr. Rossi?
Jason's up first.
Yeah, to start with the education report for secondary, item number 1, we have a final approval for textbooks as listed. Item number 2, we have a 30-day public display for AP Government textbook. Item number 3, music department course proposals as listed. Item number 4, a school threat assessment, school-based training. Item 5, educational service agreement with Adelphi Education. And item number 6, overnight excursion.
Item number 7 involves the math intervention materials. Do the math now. It's a math intervention from Austin Middle School. Item number 8 is the reading intervention materials from the 95% group. Item number 9 is the approval of the partnership with the Dynamic Learning Project Sustained Coaching Program. Item number 10 is the Peaceful School Bus Program, aligned to our Safe and Supportive Schools initiatives. Item number 11 is the MOU with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit and the Head Start.
Item number 12, continue participation in the statewide Microsoft EES program for 5 years starting in 2019 with an estimated annual cost of $22,000. Item number 13, acceptance of district donations received during the 18-19 fiscal year as indicated below. Those 3. Item number 14, approve and acceptance and expenditure of a $500 kindergarten transition grant received by the district passed through the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 in partnership with the United Way of Southwest PA for 18-19 fiscal year. It's depicted in Exhibit H. Item number 15, approve the award of the bids for various types of school supplies bid by the district for the 19-20 fiscal year, summarized by category below and is depicted in Exhibit I. Item number 16, approve the extension of the rental contract between Mr. John and the district to provide sanitation services at Gateway Middle School, as depicted in Exhibit J. Item number 17, approve the continuation of the purge service agreement with Stericycle/Shred-It for secure collection and off-site disposal of district records, as depicted in Exhibit K. Item number 18, approve the renewal and administrative fee payment in the amount of $19,243.78 for the current Better Unemployment Compensation Comprehensive Program offered directly by the Pennsylvania School Boards Association for stop-loss insurance protection, as depicted in Exhibit L. Item number 19, approve the district's purchases and payments for the following department items during the 18-19 fiscal year. For those items as depicted below, and also to note in the notes section that we are actually looking, the above items we purchased and paid for during the 18-19 fiscal year instead of during the 19-20 fiscal year to reduce expenditures in the 19-20 fiscal year general fund budget. And additional purchases will be presented for board consideration and approval at the May board meetings. Item number 9, approve the capital reserve fund budget in a projected amount of $1,504,000. The various capital repair improvement projects contained in the budget, the advertisement of requests for proposals for professional capital related services as applicable, and the advertisement of bids for capital projects as applicable to be completed during the 19-20 fiscal year, and that's depicted in Exhibit M. Item number 21, approve the following capital repair project purchased through AG Mario Company, 20 new doors at Ramsey Elementary in the amount of $58,000 through CoStars. Item number 22, award the bid for the swimming pool dehumidification system, Gateway High School Sports Complex to Aranic Sheet Metal in a total bid amount of $340,000 as a capital repair project to be completed during the 18-19 fiscal year. And item number 13,
23.
oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Thank you. Item number 23, approve the amendment for the continuation of the curtailment services agreement with Energy Curtailment Specialists and NRG Curtailment Solutions as depicted in Exhibit N.
Take a drink, Paul.
I'm going to do that, thank you.
All right, that's a big section.
Scotty, can we, maybe,
Well, we can discuss after you make a second, we can discuss. Second it.
well, I'd like the motion to maybe be for all items except 19, so we could discuss that separately, vote the rest through.
Why can't we just discuss it all?
We can do however you want. I'm just making a suggestion.
I would like to just get to the point where we can discuss it.
We will. So,
I still
Scott, it's your
need-
motion.
I
How
still
do
need
you
a
want?
second.
Need a second?
Can somebody second so we can discuss, please?
We'll second anything, all those things,
Thank you.
both of them.
Now you can discuss.
Nice.
George Lepsovich, second.
Okay, thank you.
Now you can discuss anything you want, Mr. McIntyre.
Well, obviously, item 19, because we are, the discussion we just had on the trailer, which is basically the purpose of buying this truck and the following attachments, I would maybe, like to maybe discuss it and think about, do we really need to vote on this tonight, or can it be this something that we push off until we actually figure out what our trailer situation is and what our truck need is going to be?
We can absolutely table the purchase of the F-350, correct, Mr. Brown? There's no sense of urgency in that. So,
And obviously the snow plow, I'm assuming the snow plow and the salt hopper are for that vehicle? Are those?
Salt hopper's not.
Salt hopper's not?
For one thing. It's all winter items, so we have time.
okay. Is there a motion?
So do we want to table the whole thing? What about the scrubber and the other scrubber? 'Cause that's all kind of lumped into 19.
If I may, the other items, those were actually items from 1920 budget. So the reason why we were going to purchase those was to be able to purchase them right now
Okay.
out of available funds in 18-19 budget.
So you're saying I am going to seek a motion only to table the purchase of the 2019 Ford Super Duty F-350 truck.
Correct.
Someone?
Second.
I can't make the motion. Somebody else needs to make it.
Mr. McIntyre made it.
Rick motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
So can we have a roll call to table the purchase of this F-350 Ford Super Duty?
Okay. Hold on one second. Okay. Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Tabled.
Motion carries. Hey, is there any more discussion on this section, please?
Yeah, a technical question. If we all vote in favor of all the other items, will that supersede the item that we've just tabled? I think it won't. So
Your
No,
vote's
that item's
tabled.
tabled now,
It's
so we're no
gone.
longer voting on it.
a proper vote would be in favor of all the items, and the one that's tabled remains tabled.
Well, there's still discussion on all items, so if
Right.
anybody wants to pull one, they can make a motion to
I'm just
remove
saying.
one. If there's something else that anyone would like to discuss, like the weight room? Any questions?
I got a question. Looking at the quotes here, it's more in the floor. I mean, that's a pretty big price tag for a floor.
Just go up there now, Mr.
Let me come up.
Brown. We got some questions for you. Todd.
Let's hear it. Copy made.
G&G.
I can probably assist Mr. Brown with answering some of these questions. I spent probably another hour with Mr. Rovesti, and then Mr. Brown later on. We kind of talked about the bid after
Just
Mr.
so the
Helchi
public
was
knows what
finished.
we're
So
looking at, item one,
there's a line item. For the
Mr. Dice wants to know what
weight room
what
fitness
item
center.
we're discussing to, for the audience.
It's the 1-inch Thor Pro
No,
Towel.
I mean,
It's on 19.
Oh,
19.
you mean, oh, okay.
All right, part of
Right
item
below the truck.
19. We're talking about the gym floor now.
Yeah, athletic department purchase underneath the truck.
So, and Mr.
Gottman
Gottman brought up
had
the
a question.
flooring. Item 1 and item 2 on the bid are both 1-inch pro tile flooring at a cost of $18,764, and then $862.72. And then the artwork following that, 2 line items of $5,197 each. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
For a total of about $30,000.
The best way I can describe that is, within our current weight room fitness area, this is the area downstairs attached to our locker rooms underneath the old gym. The equipment down there was purchased probably '01, so it's approaching 20 years old. And the weight equipment down there, they use what's called, I believe it's a platform, it's a wooden platform that's sitting atop a very thin rubber surface. And the impact of the weights that are dropped on this wooden platform over the 20-year span has caused the wood to decay, break apart. When you look at pictures, and I believe Mr. Rovesti sent Mrs. Cerrucci some pictures of those
They were sent to the board today.
to
Pictures
the
of
entire
flooring.
board. So you see the condition. What this product does, the flooring, it basically replaces those wooden platforms now. And in order to have a base that is safe and supportive of the concrete underneath, you need that type of flooring. And I happen to, here at Woodland Hills, initially did not have that base. on the floor, and it caused some concrete to break, and they had to dig up that concrete, and Mr. Novak made sure that they got the actual flooring in to replace it, which is the flooring we would be requesting.
Is that item 1 and 2?
Item number 2 are the inlays, which designate where those platforms would have been. And this would be the flooring that would just have inlays of either the logos situated in 4 areas on one side of the weight room, 4 areas on the other side. So it would either be the Gator script or the G logo. It's embedded into the, I guess, rubber flooring.
For $10,000.
Correct.
We're getting
Is that-
a number of Gs painted on it.
Is that just the artwork, or is that the floor with the artwork
That's-
inlaid? Is it both? Or is there a savings if we don't do the inlay?
That's the actual inlay within the rubber flooring.
So if we forego the inlay, the
Mhm.
cost of the flooring would still stay the same. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
My other question, I understand the idea of the components of this.
Mhm.
It's for specific exercises, correct? It's like like when you're doing like doing like cleans, jerks, deadlifts, that stuff.
They're stations.
Right. So, but I'm looking at a purchase of 2,784 of these tiles. That's what, it's under quantity for I'm imagining for the base.
I was not privy to that. Dr. Short was in those meetings with Mr. Rivesti.
Because it looks to me like we're covering the entire weight room with this flooring that only really needs to be where we're doing the area where the weights are gonna be hitting the floor. Which, by the way, don't drop your weights if you're,
Yeah.
that's just disrespectful.
Mr. Rivesti,
Go stand, go.
Mr. Rivesti wasn't available because he's at lacrosse, but he
He's
said if we had
covering
any
it.
questions, we could try to reach out to him. We'd try to.
I think we can greatly reduce this number if we just concentrate where we actually need this added flooring and this protection for the concrete. You know, I think we can find a cheaper alternative to replace the flooring throughout the facility.
Are you suggesting different types of flooring in different areas of the?
Possibly, but I mean, something that can maybe come in under $20,000. You know what I mean?
Rick, I'm a volunteer with the track team,
Mhm.
and we spend some time in the weight rooms, and I've been in there, and I really have never noticed the flooring there or the logo. So what I'm saying is, if I'm in there and I'm looking around for it and I haven't noticed it, why do we need to go through the extra expense of painting a large G or a Gator or some sort of a logo on the floor?
Right.
There are so many weights in that room, and so many stations are packed into a tight area, which makes for very efficient, going around the circle to perform all the exercises that you need. I don't know that we need an extra G or 2 on the floor. That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
I think I agree with you there, and that's a matter of, I don't think any of us here are prepared to answer whether or not losing the supposedly $5,000 G actually reduces the cost by $5,000. How much of a cost is that associated with the actual inlay? So these are all, I think, questions that we need to know
They're beyond
before we
us,
really
right, I agree.
commit the money. But what I'm saying is this Thor tile. I mean, and I know what it is. I've seen it. I was actually looking at the website tonight. It's really neat stuff. It's basically just like a giant rubber floor, laid in with tile. Yeah. But if we only need it for where these weights are hitting, I think this number comes down dramatically. And if it doesn't, if this is just for where we have 3 or 4 stations for, clean and jerks, I think that's an outrageous number. So I think we need to maybe look a little bit closer at this.
Anybody else
Is
want to
there-
comment on this?
Is
Mrs. Warner?
there any effect having the different levels of flooring in the weight room? Like if they're going from one station to the next station and then you don't have the rubberized flooring, you're going to the next one. I mean, the kids are,
When I was,
things have changed, but what I'm saying, I mean, everybody's lifting weights the same, but I know the kids are stronger now than what they have been, like when my kids went through, I think.
Rick, tell her that's not
I don't think that's true.
Come on.
You could probably bench 500 pounds.
Rick could bench those kids.
Mr.
Brown, if I may, just a quick moment. Mr. Brown, this estimate you've provided for us,
Are we talking about this?
The floor in general,
To be honest, that was Mr.
that was
Rivesti's,
the
not mine.
athletic- okay.
I'm really at a loss.
Yeah.
I don't
All right.
have a lot of information about this.
Sorry, Mr. Brown.
That's okay.
We like to put you on the
Just like to
spot,
Put me up there.
but you're the closest resource we have, so are we gonna look at?
I believe Mr. Ravesti met with the vendors, and when they looked at it, they determined that the type of flooring, and I'm secondhand from Mr. Ravesti this morning, needed to be placed in the areas in that weight room to prevent, like Mr. McIntyre said, about weights dropping on the floor, thus causing the concrete underneath to break because of the platforms would not be in place.
I think we all understand that.
Yes, sir. I got a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Lapsovich.
I used to be a spray painter. If we can get our art department to make a big G, I'll volunteer my job to put in gold, the G's on the carpeting.
Well, you know what I would like to see is some of our own talented artists
I know.
do some of the work in this
I can't
facility.
see why we need an outsider to do that.
So I would have to concur. I have a little question on the $10,000 of artwork, so.
We could,
Is there a problem if we table this as far as ordering equipment either? I assume we have plenty of time because we have a weight room right now. This is not urgent, correct?
I don't believe it is critical you do it today.
So possibly somebody might want
Two weight rooms.
to table this?
Yeah, let's make a motion to table this too, please.
Thank you.
okay.
Second.
Seconded by everyone?
Jack motion?
Jack and Scotty.
Scotty.
Roll call whenever she's ready.
Okay, Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsovich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warding?
Aye. All right, motion carries. Now, is there anything else that anybody would like to discuss in section F? I'll give you a minute
Can't
to
remember what all
look.
we looked at.
Go ahead, take another look.
I'm having flashbacks of doing power cleans.
While they're looking, I would like to thank the Floor Foundation. I would like to thank Charles Cohen, and I would like to thank Coca-Cola, Red Robin for their donations. When Mr. Schott read through those, he didn't specifically acknowledge those people, so just a shout out to them. Are there any other questions in this section?
I'm just going to make one comment, that today at University Park, Moe's Southwestern Grill dropped off backpack things, and we didn't have any idea what they were doing. But they had provided 75 bags filled with breakfast and lunch for both Saturday and Sunday for this weekend, and enough food for next week. And so I just wanted to say thank you because we didn't get it on the agenda in time. Thank you.
We'll have that on
If there's no discussion, I would like to seek a motion to approve section F.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gottman, second by Mr. McIntyre.
We tabled it.
She's still ready.
Okay, got it. Ready?
Yes.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsovich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Did we have two motions on section F?
We tabled both. We tabled the truck and we tabled
Okay.
the gym.
Good, okay. A little confused.
It's very easy to happen around here. Section G, resolutions presented by board members. Item 1 was mine. That was to summarize, support statewide cyber charter school funding reform by our school board of directors. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was basically a letter that goes to our state representative from the Gateway School District School Board saying that we do support our legislature to reexamine the cost of cyber charter schools.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or comments on that?
Discussion item, that is, many other school boards are also weighing in on this in favor of it as well.
Absolutely.
Daily, we're receiving updates from various school boards that are submitting this.
Okay, I guess we're gonna pull out item 1 then, since I have a motion and a second. That's a strong support there, Bonnie. So let's just vote on item 1 only.
Okay, G1, very good. Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsovich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Item carries. Item 2, I believe is you, Mrs. Warning. You want
Aye,
to deal with
yes.
this?
I'm going to, at this time, withdraw this motion, and do I need to get a,
Did you withdraw it, or do we need it to?
Just make a motion to table it.
okay, I'd like to make a motion to table this on the approval to assist with the purchase of the Gateway Band Booster trailer.
Second.
Thank you.
Second by Mr. Ritter and Mr. McIntyre. She's writing over there as fast as she
I
can.
got it. I'm going to use Rick.
Are there, once it's tabled, there's no discussion, sorry. Nope, not at all. No, next month. You can call me. Roll call when you're ready.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Okay, and I'm going to, at this time then, ask the board to make a resolution to approve to advertise for bids the general fund for the new band trailer for the 2018-2019 fiscal year, and to approve for the advertisement in the Post-Gazette, Tribune Review, and on the district website of the district bids for the new trailer for the high school marching band for the 18-19 fiscal year.
Thank you. Did everybody get that? Mr. Schott requested that we make a motion to put out to bid the new specs of the trailer immediately, so I need a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Williams. Any discussion further?
Oh, please.
Okay, no. You have to discuss a little bit because she can't write that fast.
I'm ready.
Bonnie, let's talk about you a bit.
What do you want to know?
Don't distract her.
You've been left-handed, Bonnie.
It's been a long time. Can't tell you the years. Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Whew. Okay, section 13 would be comments from residents on non-agenda items. Is there anybody who wishes to address the board on anything that wasn't on the agenda this evening? None? Okay. Next, we'll go on to reports. First, we'll do administration, then we'll do board reports, and I would just like to remind and request that board members keep their comments to 5 minutes or less for the sake of everyone's time. Thank you. Do you want to go first, or do you want to go last?
I can go first, just acknowledging that our students are hard at work on the PSSAs. I know things are going well. I've stopped in a couple of buildings to see how the process is working, and I'm proud of their efforts so far. Also would like to announce to the public that on Thursday, we do have school, and on Monday, we have school, and these are snow makeup days. So it's very important that you understand that the calendar has been changed. That's all, yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Bungard, how are you tonight?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Do you have anything for us?
Nothing at this
No
time.
updates on special ed, working on staffing?
Yes, working on staffing right now.
Dr. Chakey?
Thank you.
Nothing further.
Dr. Rossi?
Nothing.
Mr. Schott?
Do have one reminder, again, just to let everyone know that on Thursday, May 2nd, will be our next Budget and Finance Committee meeting. That'll be held at 6 o'clock in the high school LGI. Thank you.
Mrs. Crump?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Ritter?
Nothing.
Mrs. Warning?
I don't want to over
5
talk, but
minutes.
I understand that. I got the email and the text. I just want to say, spring sports are going every day. We only had one rain out, and tonight the baseball team went into extra innings and won 7-4 in 10 innings. And I just want to congratulate everyone, and good luck on the rest of the PSSA test. And that's it. I think that was
Awesome.
under 1 minute.
Ooh, that's great, thank you. Mr. Lapsovich?
I just want to thank Mr. Ken Houston for showing up at our board meetings lately. You're welcome. Your knowledge is welcome, and I appreciate you being happy with how the board's being run lately. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Bova?
This is committee stuff, so Mr. Brown and I and Dr. Short met with an engineering group a week or two ago, considering bringing on an engineering group kind of as a consultant, somewhat like Mr. Dice, just to assist with many of the big projects we're doing. We'll only do it if it not only provides assistance, but ultimately can also lead to cost savings by preventing things like our crumbling Versalock wall that Mr. Brown was not part of. He was not here for that, right, Mr. Brown?
No, it wasn't.
Right, so occasionally things get done, and without the proper expertise, we pay to do it again. So the purpose here is to do it right the first time, and we'll update you on those conversations as we have them. And meeting on Thursday with the architects, Thursday morning concerning the building situation. So we'll get to that next month too. And that's it, thank you.
Thank you for your initiative on the engineer too, Mr. Bogan. Do you have any updates for us, Mr. Dice?
Yeah, just one. I've been thinking about this. This Black Student Union thing, I think, is something that we have to really take to heart. I mean, I think that this has to be a long-term investment by the school board. I'm going to donate $500 to the Black Student Union to match yours. Because I think, I don't know how important, you just don't know how important it is to see young ladies, and I think men, get up and speak like they did. And I think that's just so important to have in a school district that's diverse like ours. So I'm throwing $500 into it too.
Way to go, Mr. Dice. Thank you.
Just don't tell them.
It won't be on TV or anything.
No,
So I'll make the check out to Paul Schott, right?
Don't make out, you make out Gateway School District.
I understand, Paul.
You're safe.
Mr. McIntyre?
Nothing to
That was really nice. Mr. Altman?
Yeah, a couple things here. One, I said it before, and I'll always say it again, I love having students come in to speak. It was great having both the union and our senior representative come in and talk about what's been going on in schools. I think it's very exciting what's going on, things I never thought would ever come to fruition here, and now that it is, it just makes it even more exciting to be part of all this. Two, with our artwork, this selection comes from Lost Side Middle School. We have both 5th grade and 6th grade. The 5th grade, if anybody could take a look, they're using the tissue paper and creatively using different shades of tissue paper to create shadows, especially with the rose. And the 6th graders are using a style, they have very neatly drawn picture in the center with names circling around it. I just look at this between the last 2 weeks and it just blows my mind how detailed this is and how wonderful it is. So thank you, 5th and 6th grade. And lastly, this Friday is the start of Passover for the Jewish community, as well as Easter on Sunday. So for those who celebrate both holidays, happy holidays. And with that, that's all I have.
Mr. Williams?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing, so I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign? Adjourned.